Hello everyone, welcome to Lukman IS. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 21st April 2021. So let us see which are the important articles straight away. So these are the important articles for mains purpose and for a prelims purpose. Let us take overview of all these articles first. First, a low carbon future through sector led change. So the article is having the context of a particular demand from US that India should target the net zero economy by 2050. Okay, so for that purpose, the way forward or suggestions are given in this article. Okay, so we are going to take input from GS3 paper environment section, climate change part is there, as well as we can expect essay on climate change part. Okay, next, a long battle against the Maoist. So on page number 7, op-ed page, RK Raghavan. So he has written this article regarding the recent attack of Maoist on the police personnel in Sukma district of Chhattisgarh that led to death of 22 police personnel. So article is discussing all the issues involved in the Maoism and this Naxalism, left-wing extremism activities in eastern states of India in particular areas. And therefore we have to understand again from internal security perspective this issue in detail because it is part of our syllabus. Next, tackling vaccine hesitancy. So on page number 7, op-ed page, the article is talking about how we can deal with vaccine hesitancy. Okay, so it is giving the definition of the vaccine hesitancy that is given by WHO, World Health Organization. Along with that, how vaccine is important at present and why vaccine hesitancy is there and way forward is provided here. Next. For prelims examination, Russia says it will launch own space station in 2025. So from science and technology part, space science, space technology, we are going to take input here that what is this international space station that we have at present. Okay, so basics about that part from prelims exams. BAO forum, so that recently was conducted virtually and that is led by China. What is this particular BAO forum, which is also called as Asia's Davos? Okay, so from international relations and international forums organization in prelims examination, we can expect such question from this particular news. Let us go into details of all these articles. First, a low carbon future through sector led change. Basically, the context of this article is that yes, we are being asked by the Western countries that India should have such particular target of having net zero emissions by 2050. Okay, at the same time, this week there will be leaders summit to be hosted by US President and our Prime Minister is going to attend that particular summit, virtual summit. This leader summit is regarding climate action and it is prelude to the next COP that is going to be held this year in Glasgow, UK. So yes, let us understand what do you mean by net zero emissions first, because these terms are also important. Sometimes carbon neutrality, the term is also in news. So carbon neutrality and net zero emissions, there is fine difference. Let us try to understand what do you mean by carbon neutrality first. Carbon neutrality means it is particularly talking about the carbon dioxide emissions, CO2 emissions. Okay, and there is need of, let's say, balancing of CO2 emissions and absorbing CO2 let's say from the atmosphere through various measures like afforestation measures or other such techniques. Okay, so this is specifically one particular greenhouse gas we are talking here, CO2. However, net zero emissions is about overall greenhouse gases, all types of greenhouse gases. If you are talking about the methane or other such water, H2O is also there, or CFCs, all these greenhouse gases are, we know that the different greenhouse gases, ozone is also a greenhouse gas. All these greenhouse gases together will contribute here. So whatever the emissions of these greenhouse gases of the country, so that is to be reduced by absorbing the atmospheric CO2 or we can say greenhouse gas emissions through various measures. Okay, then we can say that the net zero emissions are to be achieved. the balancing of emissions and absorption from the atmosphere, right? So this is net zero emissions we are talking here. Now you have understood these particular terms. So what can be, let's say, measures that can be taken by the government to achieve such net zero emissions in near future? Not we can say that directly 2050, but in this century at least we can say we can have this target. But yes, focusing on sectoral low carbon development pathways that combine competitiveness, job creation, distributional justice and low pollution. All these aspects are to be considered, and sectoral wise such actions should be taken. The article is discussing one such sector and the measures to be taken. One of the largest let's say emission sector that we have is power sector. Okay, so like for example, to decarbonize electricity sector or power sector, which is single largest source of India's greenhouse gas emissions. About 40% of the greenhouse gas emissions are from, we can say, electricity sector. Largely we will say that the coal powered thermal power plants, coal fired thermal power plants, right? So they are contributing to emission of these greenhouse gases largely. So how do we deal with this electricity sector or power sector? So we can talk about, again, you can divide your answer from like supply side and demand side. Supply side and demand side. Okay, this is not mentioned in the article, rather we can arrange all these measures in these two factors. Now supply side means the electricity production that is happening, that should be clean. Okay, so that should not be from coal based sources. So for that purpose we can say that limiting the expansion of coal based electricity capacity while making coal based generation cleaner and more efficient. So we can say that though we have these coal fired thermal power plants, these are very old power plants, they are not having the new technologies, and therefore there is need of updation of all these technologies and making these processes more cleaner and efficient, right? So this is how we are going to reduce the greenhouse gases from the supply side. Along with this, there is need of diversification of sources. So from coal based sources, yes, the present government is having this focus of renewable energy sources, and we have ambitious targets in this renewable energy sources. For example, 175 gigawatt, the present target that we have by 2022 year to be achieved, and later on we have also long term target of 450 gigawatt by 2030. This is how we have some ambitious target, and we are surely working, especially in solar energy and wind energy. We are focusing more and more investment in these sectors. That is good thing, but along with that, what we need to do is we need to understand this distributional justice, job creation. That means when we are moving towards more cleaner sources of electricity or fuel, we need to also undertake some important aspect, like those who are dependent on the coal based thermal plants. So for example, those coal belts in India, especially the backward regions, backward states of the country, we will say that not that much developed. However, those are very much dependent on this coal resources, right? So what we can do here is there can be such just transition commission to ensure decent livelihood opportunities to people living in coal belt and those dependent on coal industry. So such transition will be now ensuring distributional justice and job creation. Along with that, we need to also focus on the distribution companies, DISCOMs. These companies are facing financial crunch. Along with that, many other problems like management is very inefficient and poor finances. Along with that, AT&C losses are there in DISCOMs and GenComs, right? So this particular aspect, this particular issue needs to be resolved here, addressed here, right? In addition to that, whatever the electricity through these renewable sources that we are going to produce, we need to also invest more and more on the future technologies. For example, we can say that the storage technologies, electricity storage and smart grids, along with that the e-vehicles, electric vehicles, and for them the required infrastructure in the country, right. So then it will be very beneficial for smooth transition from coal based electricity to other sources, let's say based electricity. And we can also focus on demand side, let's say measures. Demand side measures means the demand of electricity should be reduced, the wastage of electricity power should be reduced. What we can do from this? We know that at present whatever the domestic appliances that we are using at household level, these are energy inefficient. So what we can do is use of innovation, use of technology, and make them more energy efficient and cleaner appliances. So we know that at present whatever the energy is consumed at household level, almost 60% of that energy is taken by three important appliances: fans, ACs and refrigerators, air conditioners and refrigerators. So they can be made more energy efficient. Such kind of technology should be developed, promoted in the country. Along with that, more awareness creation, IEC campaign about, let's say, wastage of electricity. So that can be done by the government. Along with that, some important initiatives, like we know that Earth Hour is celebrated, or for that particular hour all the electricity appliances are switched off, and this is how we are focusing on protecting our environment. Along with that, we are also trying to reduce the demand of such power or electricity. This will automatically reduce our emissions. Along with that, you can also say that the afforestation measures should be undertaken, so that overall the emissions that we are having, the absorption of these greenhouse gases, especially CO2, can happen because of this afforestation measures and conservation of existing forests, right. So all these measures you can mention. There can be essay topic regarding environment, climate change. Along with that, GS3 paper environment section, and those who are having geography optional subject, it is very important topic. Fine. So what kind of question we are expecting here? Discuss the measures to achieve net zero emissions in India. Simply the straightforward question can be there in GS3 paper. Essay topic: a roadmap to net zero emissions in India. Such kind of essay topic we can expect, because this is very much in news this year. Okay. Next, the long battle against Maoist. So yes, earlier we discussed about this particular issue when such attack happened. So context is Maoist attacked in Sukma district of Chhattisgarh on 3rd April 2021, killing 22 police personnel in that, let's say, conflict that happened. Location, you can see here, map of India, map of Chhattisgarh, and the location of Sukma district, this particular, okay, Sukma district, or this particular location where this mishap happened here. Okay, so Sukma district, or this particular Dandakaranya forest region, Bastar region of Chhattisgarh, is very much active zone of left wing extremism or Maoism in that region. Okay, so what we are going to understand here is some basics, that means determinants of Naxalism, Maoism or left wing extremism in India. What is this red corridor, or the, let's say, focus areas, highly affected areas of Naxalism in India. Okay, and along with that, way forward in the end we are going to understand, and the type of questions that UPC asked recently in 2020, last year also, and in 2018 also, the straightforward questions being asked from this particular topic. So we need to prepare from the basics of this particular topic. Now you can see here in this map, the red corridor of India, we call it as, now the Maoism or Naxalism, left wing extremism, this particular movement, will say that this evolved in 1960s, from this particular village in West Bengal called as Naxalbari. This particular movement started first as the land rights or forest rights movement, but later on the ideology of Mao, that was it was influenced by this ideology, and that's why we called it as Maoist movement also, or because of Naxalbari village where it started, it is also called as Naxalism, and the philosophy will say that the left wing extremism here. Now what is the objective of Maoism? Objective is to destabilize the administration and overtopple the government and to establish the people's government. To establish the people's government, parallel government, and this to some extent affects the sovereignty of the country, and therefore our government does not accept this demand of the Naxalist movement. Now it is spread almost, let's say, 1/3 region of the India. So 1/3 territory of the country is affected by Maoism or Naxalism, especially eastern states. We can say Jharkhand, West Bengal, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, some parts of Maharashtra, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and some pockets of Karnataka, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu also. Okay, this is how the spread of this movement in these states. We can see the highly affected areas, the two locations which are there at the tri-junctions of 3 states. Which are these? First, here you can see West Bengal, Jharkhand, Odisha tri-junction, and here Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh, and Odisha tri-junction. Here Dandakaranya forest. So they are highly let's say impacted or affected by Naxalism. This is how you can also draw the map of affected areas or red corridor of India, right, in the answer. Now the determinants of the Naxalism, 4 factors, you can categorize them into 4 factors. First is Jal, Jangal, Zameen. Okay, so that means the rights over Jal, Jangal, Zameen, land rights, forest rights, and the rights over other resources have been denied to people in these states from time to time, and this has created anti-government sentiment and joined the Maoist cadres. The people started joining the Maoist cadre. So land alienation, encroachment, acquisition without appropriate compensation, and forest rights not given to these people. So that's why this is the major factor, we can say, along with other such factors like development deficit, governance deficit. When we talk about development deficit, we can talk about social and economic aspects. In economic aspects, again 3: poverty, unemployment, infrastructure, lack of infrastructure. Okay, this is how we have to understand unemployment, poverty, infrastructure deficit. And in social aspect, we have to understand lack of education, lack of access to the education, lack of access to the health initiatives or services in these regions. So these are developmental deficit. What are governance deficit? Governance deficit, that means there is some kind of misgovernance or the corruption in the administration. There is lack of motivation among the public services, poor implementation of the laws and government schemes and policies. This has resulted into misgovernance in those states or those districts, those regions by the administration. This is misgovernance. And lastly, some emotional aspect is also involved, ethical aspects are also involved. That means denial of life with dignity, the lack of, let's say, upholding human rights. So there is frequent cases of human rights violations by the police personnel, by the administration in that region, and this has created anti-government sentiment, no connect with the mainstream society by the tribal society living in this region, and lack of satisfaction with the government. So yes, surely all these aspects are contributing to flourishing of this Maoist movement or Naxalism movement in those areas. Now also we have to understand, though from time to time the government has taken various measures, why government is failing? What are the challenges? what are the challenges involved here, right? So let us try to understand this. First thing, you can say geographical challenges. Okay, geographical challenges, that means here you know that there is a dense forest, and we can say the uneven topography is there, mountainous regions are there, and therefore what happens is this creates a avenue for guerrilla warfare, because the Maoist people in that region, or those people, they know the terrain well as compared to the police personnel. Along with that, it is apt ground for guerrilla warfare technology, that techniques that are adopted by the Maoist in that region, right? So these are geographical factors. Then we can say that the administrative factors. Administrative factors, you can here say that the lack of cooperation among the states, especially what happens in these two tri-junctions. We said that in these three states, the Maoists carry out certain attacks in one state and they immediately go into the boundaries of other states and they hide out there. And because of lack of coordination among the police forces of these different states, the problem is that the effective, let's say, anti-Naxal movements or such, let's say, attacks, and there is very difficulty of these police personnel, faced by the police personnel, to carry out any anti-Naxal activities because of these reasons. Administrative, then we can say that the infrastructure. So what happens in this region is that there is lack of infrastructure in terms of roads, bridges, and all, let's say, electricity, and even mobile towers. And this lack of infrastructure is beneficial for Naxalists, however it is not beneficial for our police personnel. They are facing the problem, they are not able to reach into the interiors of the forest where there are hideouts of the Naxalists, right? And because of that there is problem. Again, one thing you need to know, that whenever the government wants to build certain infrastructure, these Naxalists are continuously trying to blast, or we can say that destruction of all these infrastructure like roads or even bridges. So whenever the bridge is built, the bridge is being collapsed by the Maoists through explosions. So all these factors are challenges here to deal with, we can say that, Naxalism activities, right? And there are certain limitations on behalf of police personnel, law enforcement agencies, because we know that the army, or let's say armed forces, cannot be employed here because the human angle is involved. These people are not, we can say, anti-Indian people, or they are actually our citizens, born in India, born in our on our land, and because of that we cannot deal with them only through force, right? So that's why there are some limitations in application of force also. So these are the challenges, we can say. And what is the approach of the present government in dealing with this is that our Ministry of Home Affairs, who is responsible for all the aspects of internal security, okay, be it Naxalism, be it the insurgency in Northeast, all these aspects, it is responsibility of Ministry of Home Affairs. Try to understand, internal security is the responsibility of Ministry of Home Affairs, while external security, or security from the external threats, this is the responsibility of Ministry of Defense. Okay. Now here our Home Ministry has adopted this Samadhan approach, or we can say Operation Samadhan has been launched. And what is the meaning of this Samadhan, or full form? We can say it stands for smart leadership, S, aggressive strategy, motivation and training, actionable intelligence, dashboard based KPIs, key performance indicators, and KRAs, key result areas. Then harnessing technology, action plan for each theatre, and no access to financing. This is how we are going to deal with the Naxalism. This is the present strategy of the government. Now along with that, many such important let's say aspects or the methods that are adopted at the ground level by the local administration, by the local police or state police, along with that CRPF, Central Reserve Police Forces, that are there employed in that region. So what kind of question we have been asked here? Last year mains examination GS3 paper, very straightforward and basic question asked. What are the determinants of left wing extremism in eastern part of India? Just now we learned about this first part. And what strategy should government of India, civil administration and security forces? Now there are three aspects involved here. Strategy of government of India, strategy of civil administration, strategy of security forces. What should be the strategies of all three? So we can say that the government of India strategy, you mention about this Operation Samadhan. You mention about this Operation Samadhan. What should be the strategy of civil administration? What strategy civil administration can adopt is the presence of civil administration should be very much visible in that area, especially for the villages or those people living in that region. So what happens at present is the local administration, civil administration is not visible, not present in that region to address the problems of the people, and that's why it creates vacuum. This vacuum is exploited continuously by the Naxalists. Okay, so that's why the presence of civil administration, any kind of thing, so be it it is talking about the employment generation schemes, implementation of those schemes, or other such tribal welfare scheme implementation, let's say water supply schemes, all these schemes are to be implemented by civil administration. They should be implemented effectively. Okay, along with that, what is need of the hour for the security forces? Security forces need to have or approach a two-pronged approach. Okay, two-pronged approach, that means the civil aspect and the force aspect. That means those, let's say Maoist with, let's say armed Maoist, they should be dealing with them in a forceful manner using force, while the civilians living in that region, the security forces should have the civil aspects also. For that matter, the government of India has also launched the Civic Action Plan for CRPFs. Civic Action Plan for CRPFs, and through this particular plan, the funding is given to CRPFs for the implementation of development projects in that region. Okay, this will show the soft angle of the security forces. This will ensure the trust of the people in the security forces. This is how the approach should be there. Two-pronged approach, civil and force, right? Along with that, this approach of civil administration, in addition to, we can say, providing all the amenities, civil administration should also implement the surrender cum rehabilitation policy of the government of India, and this is going to be very helpful in reducing all the recruits from the local areas, right? This is how you can attempt this particular question. In 2018 also similar kind of question was asked. Left wing extremism is showing downward trend but still affects many parts of the country. Briefly explain the government of India's approach to counter the challenges posed by left wing extremism. So government of India approach, and then you can further add certain points that we discussed here in this first question, right? So the answer should be in the structurized manner. The first part of the question, that should be given half the weightage, and the second part of the question should be given half weightage, and in the second part you can divide in these three parts. Okay, the more structurized answer, more effective it looks, more marks you will fetch here. Fine. Okay, next, tackling vaccine hesitancy. So yes, vaccine hesitancy, earlier also we discussed this particular topic. First of all, let us try to understand what is vaccine hesitancy. It is defined by WHO as reluctance or refusal to be vaccinated, and is one of the top threats to global health. Okay, so this is how we have to understand the vaccine hesitancy. At present, for COVID-19 vaccines, there is some kind of vaccine hesitancy going on in the society, in the country. because of certain misinformation and lack of appropriate information, or we can say that the communication from the government about the effectiveness of these vaccines. And because of that, what is happening is people are not ready to take the vaccines. It is not making the, let's say, it is further aggravating the problems of this COVID-19 pandemic, especially at present the second wave. Now, vaccine hesitancy has been there in past too, not only the present for COVID-19 pandemic. In past also in India we have seen the vaccine hesitancy for polio vaccine, right? In Western countries also there was, let's say, hesitancy for other such vaccines, right, like tetanus vaccine or other such vaccines. For that matter, there was always vaccine hesitancy, not only in developing countries or underdeveloped countries, rather even in developed countries also. Okay, so how or why at present this particular vaccine hesitancy is being developed for this COVID-19 vaccines? Because of surplus information, outbreaks of misinformation spread through social and digital media channels. So on these social media platforms, what is happening at present is there is a flooding of information. This is also called as infodemic. How to deal with this infodemic is a separate topic. However, because of this infodemic, misinformation, lack of appropriate information, what is happening is people are not taking vaccines, and because of that, dealing with this pandemic is making much more difficult by the government, right? Impact of this particular misinformation or vaccine hesitancy, it is, let's say, having impact on public trust through echo chamber effect. Now, what do you mean by echo chamber effect? Echo chamber effect, that means whatever the meaning, or we can say misinformation that is happening on the social media platform, this is having huge negative impact. That means we know that there is more tendency of spreading of negative information that as compared to positive information, and it is manifolds. Okay, it is multiplying at large rate. This is called as echo chamber. Okay, so some information that gets on this social media platform, it is immediately spreading through vast number of people, and because of that there is lack of public trust created among the people. What should be the way forward here? Building public trust through clear and transparent communication. So what we can do here is the government can launch appropriate, effective IEC campaign, information, education, communication campaign. Okay, IEC campaign, information, education, communication campaign, so as to ensure that such vaccine hesitancy is not there for this COVID-19 vaccines. The messenger is also important as the message. That means anyone cannot give this message. The messenger should be, let's say, effective personality, or we can say noted personalities. For example, leaders like Prime Minister, Chief Ministers, at the same time sports personalities, famous sports personalities, along with that the important, or we can say famous actors. So all these can give this particular message. Here in this case also the scientists, doctors, they are also important persons. Their message, or they should give such message to the people, so then people will have the public trust. Seeding positive messages proactively in the community and on social media platform, this is very important. So before spreading of misinformation, right information should be proactively spread into the community by the government or the administration. This is the approach that should be there. Along with that, demonstrating positive behavior change. That means the success stories should be propagated. Success stories. This is very important, let's say, tool of persuasion. Ethics paper, social influence and persuasion should be applied in way forward here whenever we talk about vaccine hesitancy. So demonstrating positive behavior change. So it shows success stories. Whenever there is a clear cut success stories about implementation, or when the people are taking more and more vaccines and it is having certain effect in reduced, let's say, morbidity in these COVID-19 times, then that can be shown or demonstrated on these social media platforms or the media platforms also. This can be the approach to deal with the vaccine hesitancy. So try to remember social influence and persuasion, effective leadership qualities, effective communication, and the success stories or role models. All they are going to play important role in dealing with vaccine hesitancy, in dealing with universal masking, people adopting this COVID appropriate behavior. So all these things can be there by using these approach. Next, Russia says it will launch own space station in 2025. So what it is particular news, it is saying that, so Russia's space agency Roscosmos said that it hoped to launch its own orbital station by 2025 as Russia considers withdrawing from ISS, International Space Station. So what is this International Space Station? It was a multilateral, or we can say multinational collaborative project among 5 space agencies of 5 countries: US, NASA, second JAXA, Japan, ESA, Europe, then CSA, Canada, and Russia, Roscosmos. So all these 5 agencies collaborated together, and first such, let's say, component of ISS was launched in 1998. First long-term resident arrived on the ISS on 2nd November 2000. This is one of the, let's say, historical moment for the multilateral cooperation in space science. Okay, along with that, this particular ISS is in the low orbit with an average altitude of 400 kilometers. So it is low orbit satellite also, we can say that. Along with that, it circles Earth in roughly 93 minutes, completing 15.5 orbits per day. Right. So the station has been since been continuously occupied for 20 years, 170 days, the longest continuous human presence in low Earth orbit. So this is the basic information about ISS, International Space Station. Now what kind of question, simple framing of question can be there. ISS is collaboration among the space agencies of 5 countries. Which of the following is not among them? So generally we expect that China is also important, let's say, space power now, and this can be wrong, let's say, answer by many students. So you need to be aware that China is not there. So Russia is there, Canada is there, Japan is there, along with that US is there and Europe is there. Right. So yes, so answer is A here. Fine. And lastly, BAO Forum for Asia, BFA. So BOA Forum, this is also called as Asia's Davos. This is called as Asia's Davos. Now there can be question in prelims examination. Generally UPSC is asking such international forums, organizations, or not for profit organizations, NGOs, which are very much less in news but are also significant. So because of that, such particular news, though they are not directly focusing on BOA Forum, rather there is just a reference of this forum, so we need to be aware about such international forums. This particular forum is initiated in 1998 and later on formally inaugurated in 2001. First such meeting happened in 2002, and this year it was held in virtual format. So it has fixed address in Bao, Henan province of China, although the secretariat of this forum is based in Beijing. Okay, so it is modeled on the World Economic Forums, let's say, held annually in Davos, Switzerland. That's why it is called as Asia's Davos. So many such Asian countries and their leaders participate in this high level forum, And this year actually it was in news in the Hindu newspaper where Chinese president was addressing this particular forum, right. It is not for profit organization that host high level forums, okay, and this is the annual forum he was addressing to, Bao forum, okay, Asia's Davos, right. So yes, these were important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. For further information on editorial discussion classes or ED classes wherein in-depth analysis of mains related articles is done by Ansari sir and team, you can contact Lukman IAS. Thank you.